Hi, and welcome to another mini lecture on pre-calculus. Today's topic is amplitude, period, and phase shift of a sine or cosine function. For some reason, item number 4 is missing here. Just for the sake of completeness, I'm going to mention that as well. There was something called midline. We might as well put that in the list. So what's the issue? The issue is that we have a function perhaps written as a sine of, say, bx plus c plus d. So it's a cast of 4 characters, a, b, c, d. They determine main attribute of this function. And for sake of simplicity, we are assume that our number b is positive. Otherwise, we can change the sign by some identity we are going to talk about later on. So b, in all of your examples here, is going to be a positive quantity. We want to know the attributes. Of course, the first thing is the amplitude. We had seen this thing last time. Amplitude, absolute value of this number. So if it's negative, we have to force it positive. We talked about period. Period is the length of time it takes for the picture to repeat itself, and it's 2 pi over b, assuming b is of course positive. So that is something that you see. Then we have a phase shift. So that is perhaps the new terminology here, phase shift. Let me say it like this so that a certain confusion is going to be avoided. Just remember, in all the pictures we had, we were trying to find out where does 0 go. Remember, we set that thing equal to 0. That is, if you set bx plus c, the argument of a function, set it equal to 0, you find what? That x is equal to minus c over b. That is referred to as the phase shift. So the phase shift is the location of where the starting point of the function goes. And then the midline is the shift up or down that the graph goes through. So I'm going to mention that for the sake of completeness, but it's not asked in any of the questions that you are going to face here. Same story applies to cosine. So if you have y is equal to a cosine of bx plus c plus d, the story will be the same. So what is the amplitude here? Amplitude is this number. Amplitude is absolute value of the 2, which is just 2. Phase shift, we said, easiest way to remember this thing and avoid making mistakes on the signs and such. 2x minus pi over 2, set it equal to 0. 2x is equal to pi over 2. So x is equal to pi over 4. That's the starting point of the your picture, and that is what counts as phase shift. Period, we said the period of sine is 2 pi. When you run it twice as fast, it's going to be 2 pi over 2, which of course simplifies to just pi. No question is being asked here, but what's the significance of that? Significance of is that the midline of the picture is minus 3, meaning you have to take the graph of the sine and then lower it by 3 units to get your final graph. So that's about it. So we are going to repeat this multiple times. What's the amplitude? Amplitude. What is the period? 2 pi. This is how fast this is going to run. So 2 pi third is the period of it. Phase shift, again, my advice to set the argument of sine or cosine to equal to 0. So 3x becomes pi over 4, and so x becomes pi over 12, and that's what the phase shift is here, the location of the starting point of the picture of the fundamental cycle. Who's the midline? Midline of this graph. The graph of cosine has been lifted up by 2 units, and that is the answer to that one. If function is multiplied by minus when you want to calculate the amplitude, do remember to take absolute value. Phase shift, once again, 2x plus pi over 2, set it equal to 0. The reason I write it like that, because previous examples in your software had a plus sign here in bx plus c, and for some reason in this section it writes bx minus c to avoid any kind of issues with should be plus or minus. Here is my recommendation. Just set the argument equal to 0, solve it, and then phase shift minus pi over 4, period is 2 pi divided by this acceleration factor, so 2 pi over 2 is going to be pi. Midline, how much you take the function up or down, this is going to be midline minus 2, that is this number. So the only thing that's perhaps a little bit different is issue of the phase shift. Let's see if we have another one, or that's it. Well, we have another one. Phase shift, item number 1, take the argument, ask when is it that it starts. It starts when this is 0, so 3x is minus pi over 4, therefore x is minus pi over 12. Or the recipe is just take this thing, divide by that, and make it negative. So minus pi over 12, period, is 2 pi divided by this. There's a name for that number too, it's called the frequency, but somehow it's not mentioned here. So 2 pi over 3 amplitude. Here you don't want to go wrong. Amplitude is absolute value of this. Well, this is really minus 1, so amplitude is just 1. What is the midline? That minus 2 could be written at the beginning or at the end, it doesn't matter. Midline is minus 2. It has been lowered by 2 units. So a sine of bx plus c plus d, amplitude is absolute value of the multiplier of sine, period is 2 pi divided by multiple of x. We have assumed this thing to be positive for simplicity. Phase shift, we take the argument of sine or cosine, set it equal to 0, solve it. That's where that 0 point goes. It goes to this point. That's called phase shift. Midline, number that you lower or take up the function 2. That's where the intercepts are going to travel to. Okay, so that is a short lecture. See you next time. Until then, good luck and God bless.